Good morning again. For the last 6 weeks here at Spirit Garage, we have been trying some different faith practices in worship, like actually practicing them in worship, and today is no different. This week we are going to take on a faith practice that is also a neighboring practice. That is something that helps to grow our faith and one that helps us to know our neighbors and our community more. Because even with all the different ways that we can be in contact with one another, we often live and we kind of get pushed into isolation, living on our own and functioning in ways that keep us separated from one another. And whatever it is that you or I care about deeply, in order to make a difference in the world, the difference that we might seek, it requires a group of people, and a group of people that trust one another and that choose to cooperate together for a larger purpose. And I would say we're definitely living in a time where there's like lots of pressure to not trust one another. And so we're going to try something that's super countercultural. We're going to lean into knowing each other more. And I'm not going to talk very much about Ephesians, but a quick comment about it, because it was sort of a long reading and there's a lot to it. But one of the things that Paul is saying in that part of Ephesians is that because of God's love for us, our larger purpose is to help create a world in which everyone is beloved and everyone has enough. A world in which there is peace with justice. So that's the mission that we as Christians are united in, right? That's our mission. And because God is drawing us into this place, into this community, we belong to each other. We aren't isolated individuals, we are a community, and we belong to each other. And in belonging to one another, then we are freed from thinking the things that society would have us think. Things like, I have to figure this out on my own. I gotta just deal with it myself. Right? We're freed from that. We're freed from the burden that everything is on our own shoulders. And instead, and we're also freed from the temptation that maybe I'd be better off somewhere else. Like going and trying this community thing somewhere else, or doing something on my own in another place, right? That's God is drawing us into this community, and that frees us up from all those societal pressures to think that we have to do things on our own. And then we can be assured of this promise that when we belong to each other, we know, even when waking up in the middle of the night, that we're among friends. And then when we really dig into that belonging to community, when it is mine and it's yours, then we start to behave as if we are creators and co-owners of the community. It's not like, oh, someone else will solve that, but we solve it together. So when the community belongs to me or to you, then we all are empowered to act in ways that build and nurture our community. So that, you might, as we get into these conversations, be like, why are we doing this? It's because of that. It's because it helps us build ownership. Each of us gets to own part of the community. And in creating community, we structure it, right? We can structure how belonging in a community looks, right? So we have weekly worship and gathering times, right? That's a structure for our life together. And we can create opportunities to share meals, right? We're doing that right now in this community. At my table dinner parties, right? People are getting together and sharing meals. We can create opportunities to have conversations about who we trust that God is, like we do in Bible study, or what we'll do in adult confirmation classes that are coming up during Lent. And then we can take the next step that says we do belong to this place, and this place belongs to us. That's something that's coming up too. A belonging class is coming up at the end of March, right? We can create opportunities in our community to serve others in the larger community, like was done on Friday at Our Saviors, right? And we can take opportunities to structure our community to raise money to restore others to safe homes and to honor their dignity as fellow humans. That we'll do in early March with A Walk in the Life, right? So there's like all these ways we can structure our community. And so similarly, we can structure our conversations. So that's what we're going to do, is something, we're going to practice the practice of good conversation today. These are community building conversations, conversations that create a new future, a future that's distinctly different from the past, because we lean in and get to know each other more, and we build trust. We learn how to trust one another. So we're going to follow more structure to the conversation than is usual when we have conversations with people, and that's intentional. So the structure that I'm going to tell you about, and the discipline to keep it, so that's in your small groups. I'm encouraging you to keep that structure. So that's what helps us create this distinct future. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Rachel, I think I'm going to take the clicker from you. And we've done this here before at Spirit Garage, so it's not brand new, but there's lots of visitors, so it's brand new for you. And no one knows exactly how the conversation is going to go, so it's different every time. So how we're going to do this is in small groups, so no more than 4 people. And then you're going to sit close in kind of a circle. So nobody should have a table between them, and your knees should be about 9 inches apart. So if you're really like, oh, that's too close, 10 is okay. And if you're like, well, 9 is fine, I could get closer, 8 is also okay. 9 inches, though, is what's recommended. And a lot of what we're doing today comes from the book Community by Peter Block. And it's about creating community. And how do we do that? And this is the main way we do it, is through conversations. Okay, this is also an important thing. Number 3 is that we're going to resist temptation to offer advice. So if you hear like, oh, somebody has a problem, instead of like, oh, I have the right answer, I know what you could do about that, ask a question. We're going to practice asking questions, because then it helps the story that's being told. It keeps the story is that person's story. Okay, so don't give advice. Don't tell a story of like, oh, I had something like that happen to me too. I'm guilty of that one. I often find myself doing that. I'm like, why did I insert myself? Like, it's not me, it's you. So listen and ask questions. Okay? And if you can't think of a vague, personal, or edgy question, you can always ask, why does that matter to you? Okay? So, and you maybe can keep asking it. What Peter Block says is like when you start to really get at why it matters to someone is when they start to kind of get irritated with you. So you kind of have to ask it a lot of times, why does it matter to you? And then you might notice that the person's like, okay, stop already. You might be getting close to why it really matters. And then you're invited to ask these follow-up questions, and questions that help the other person tell their story. And let's see. Okay, we're going to aim to ask great questions. And what are great questions? Great questions are ambiguous. So you're not trying to like fish an answer out of the person. You're asking like this ambiguous question, like, I don't know, even like, how did that feel for you? Right? I don't know what the answer is. And so saying, did you feel kind of frustrated by that? I'm leading you to say, oh, well, I wasn't frustrated. I was kind of aggravated, though, right? Like, how did it feel for you? That's an ambiguous question. There's also personal. So it's not like, wow, I wonder how that would feel for someone. It's how did it feel for you? because then it's about, again, that person that you're in conversation with. And then great questions can be edgy. So things that matter to us when we really are talking about them, it can make us a little uncomfortable. And so how did it feel for you to have someone talk to you like that? That's a more edgy question, I think, than often we ask in regular conversation. All right, so that's great questions. That's our goal, is to ask great questions. And then we'll have 15 minutes to do this, and then I'll just let you know once at each 5-minute intervals, so that if you want, everybody can get a chance to talk. That's the goal, is to have everybody in your group be able to talk. So it's no more than 4 people, ideally 3, because then you can't hide. Which everybody's like, dang, that was my plan. I was going to be the 4th. Excuse me. And then at the end, we'll just take a couple minutes to report back. So what did you hear? What struck you in the conversation? And this is an important part because it helps us make meaning of what we've experienced, right? So, and you might be like, I've been in groups where we've done this, and somehow 3 of us coming from very, very different experiences will have some meaning that's very similar. And so this is an opportunity that will take a few minutes to see what struck you. And we have a handheld mic, so we can just come around the room. And then for folks at home online, joining us online, this is the time where it's a great opportunity to give somebody a call and just have a conversation with them. Okay, so what are we talking about? Because that's the other thing. We're going to talk about the story about this community that you hear yourself most often telling. Now, I know we have some folks here for the first time, so it might be, what story do you tell about your faith community or a different community you're involved in? Or it might be, what story do you think you'll tell people about when you tell them you came and visited Spirit Garage, right? So I think you can do it that way. And then the question, there's a couple more questions, right? What do you get out of telling the story the way you tell it? And what is your attachment to that particular story costing you? So I don't want to feed any examples to you. I just want you to see, how does it go? Because the questions are designed to be a little bit like, what does that mean? So if you feel like, I don't know what that question means, you're not alone. That's how they're designed, because it doesn't give any answers away, right? Like it leaves it open for you to enter into the conversation and have that experience. So I would encourage you to find 2 or maybe 3 other people that you don't know well here, and get close together and have the conversation. So I'll give you a moment to stand up and mill around and find the people that you're going to have conversation with. And if this is one of those moments where you are like, I'm going to opt out, you can. All right. Thank you, everybody. Wow. Okay, so again, what is the story about this community that you hear yourself most often telling? And then, what are the payoffs you receive from holding on to this story? Or what do you get from holding this story? And then, what is your attachment to it costing you, if anything? All right. I'll let you know when 5 minutes is gone. And then 5 more, and then 5 more. And then we'll be done. All right, that was 5 minutes. You have 10 more minutes. That was 10 minutes, so you have 5 more minutes left. Okay, everyone, this is your 2-minute warning. All right, I'm going to encourage you to wrap up your last comments so we can come back together.
Time to run to the restroom. Is there like a wrap up?
There is. Yep. All right, everybody. That was 15 minutes of awesome conversation, I can tell, because the room was just popping. So, let's see. Like I said before, though, I will invite people to share what struck you in your conversation. Does anybody have something to say? If you do, I'll bring you the microphone so the folks at home online can hear, and also so everyone in the room can hear. Was there any oh, wow, I didn't know that, or surprises, or what struck you in the conversation? All right, hang on a second. Thank you, Becca, for being brave. Awesome. Woo.
I know, it's scary. Something I found really beautiful is how we just naturally gravitated towards one another, and it's 3 different women at 3 different phases of our lives, and sharing kind of I guess what we all talked about in regards to what this community does for us is we came from places that didn't feel comfortable, and we feel comfortable here and able and empowered to love our God and search for that
Awesome.
connection.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else have something that struck you in the conversation? Heidi?
What struck me is that I realized, talking to Ann and John, is that when we started talking, I realized I had been going here for 17 years, and John's been going here, I think, even longer than me.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you find each other, even though you've been around a long time, getting to know each other still. Yep. Anyone else? All right, Shelley, thanks.
I just feel like it's such a gift when you're given an assignment for you to be able to talk and the others to not interrupt.
Some good ground rules about
Yeah,
that.
it's just really wow, I get to just talk, and that doesn't happen that often, and I really appreciated that.
Awesome. Yeah, I was at a meeting earlier this week, and it was a comment was made about how in society right now we're not practicing our relational skills, right? So we're all taking our toys and going to our own corners, right? And so this is a really good opportunity to practice that, because it's not comfortable. It's not you can predict what's going to happen, and that's part of being in community. So I really appreciate everybody's willingness to participate in the ways you participated. And just to remind us, with these kinds of practices, we are creating a future that is distinctly different from the past, right? So we are building trust. We are knowing more about each other. We are leaning in. And just a final reminder about why we do it. And it's because of God's love. God's love for us pulls us into a larger purpose for our lives, a purpose to help create a world in which everyone is beloved and has enough, a world in which there is peace with justice. And because of God drawing us in, we belong to one another. And then we are freed from thinking that I have to do everything on my own, right? We get to lean on each other. Even in the middle of the night, we know we are among friends. And for that we say thanks be to God. Amen.